are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Hello, my beautiful people! Welcome to another fun-filled and exciting episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And what a week this has been, because there has been a lot of announcements and a lot of big news that did occur this week. And for this one, well, I'm not going to be wasting any more time with this introduction. We are going to be going down one by one with a lot of them. Some that we have already heard, some familiar news that have been pretty much the same as we have heard a little bit before. And also, just a quick mention, a special thank you to Daniel Vasquez for the subscription. Yes, anyways, back to what I was saying. Yes, there will be some news that do sound a little bit similar to what I have talked about before, and some things that I haven't done in a long time. You'd think that because of this entire pandemic that I wouldn't do stuff like this anymore, but, well, it looks like I might now, actually, because they are making a little bit of a comeback to tell us what's going to be coming soon. But anyways, with all that said and done, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, are you all ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? I better hope you're ready. Let me hear it, chat wall. Are you ready now? Okay, let's see. Yes, a lot of people are prepared. Sounds good. We're all set. So with all that said and done, why don't we go ahead and get things started? And with our first story, this is probably one of the most unbelievable news of the week. Or probably, outside of the pandemic of course, this is probably one of the most unexpected movie news of the year. You'd think it wouldn't happen. You'd think it would never exist. And yet, here we go. It looks like it's gonna happen. Well, brace yourselves for next year, everybody, because it looks like we are about to enter into the Snyder Cut. Yes, folks, the Zack Snyder Cut of Justice League is officially gonna be happening. HBO Max has officially made that announcement that for next year, in 2021, they are going to release a special edition of the 2017 movie Justice League that will be the entire original director's cut from Zack Snyder. And pretty much because it's going to be a whole year until it's going to be released, right now Zack Snyder is going to be working hard in order to create his original version of the movie. Now, if you guys don't know what has happened, if you don't necessarily know the little history of what has happened with the 2017 Justice League movie, well, brace yourselves, because this is actually quite a fascinating story. Now, it actually all began during 2016. It was in the middle of 2016, I believe, where everybody was working on this Justice League movie. Production seems to be going fine. But then suddenly there was a serious tragedy that occurred where the daughter of Zack Snyder, who is intended to be the director of the whole movie, has unfortunately committed suicide. And this put up some major grief for Zack Snyder, where it left him with no choice but to stop directing altogether. He had to quit in order to have some moment of grief for his daughter's passing. And thus, he gave the directing duties onto the hands of Joss Whedon, which he has some great experience with superhero movies before, especially for a movie like this, considering that he did work on Avengers for Marvel. So, he pretty much took the position to finish up what Zack Snyder left off, which really wasn't a whole lot at that point. They had to do some, just a little bit of edits, just to do some music, maybe a little bit of reshoots, but the main thing was essentially to do post-production work. That was the main thing that Joss Whedon had to go and take care of while Zack Snyder was out grieving. But when the movie did come out on November of 2017, it didn't necessarily work out well for anyone. Not for the movie, not for Warner Brothers, and not for the universe that this is all set in, the DC Extended Universe, or DCEU. The critics and audiences felt very mixed about the movie itself and how it went, because a lot of people really did notice that the difference between the vision of Zack Snyder and the vision of Joss Whedon is pretty much night and day, and it feels like it's just two different styles constantly clashing on one another. It may not have necessarily been the worst superhero movie out there, but it wasn't well prepared. It wasn't one that was well crafted in order to have this unified version to tell this unified vision to tell this story of Justice League. And if it wasn't bad enough that the reception was pretty much mixed to a little bit negative, the box office, however, is what really paid the price for this one. What ended up happening was that it did receive some money at the box office. It made over $650 million, which is actually pretty good for a movie, of course. But the real problem is the fact that Justice League was a stupidly expensive movie. And when I say stupidly expensive, I mean that it has a budget of $300 million. $300 million. That is almost unheard of for a movie. Now, it has happened before, but going up to that budget, it is absolutely ridiculous. And thus, Warner Brothers ultimately paid the price for it, where the movie ended up becoming a box office bomb and lost $60 million. Now, with that said, that's just the main story of what happened to the movie during its initial release and during the production. What about the stuff that happened afterwards? Why is it that this movie in particular felt so relevant even after it came out, even after it became a box office bomb and stuff? Well, that story is actually very unusual, because what happened is that there are those super fans that absolutely adore the DCEU. They think that the DC Extended Universe is the best thing to happen to movies since the camera was invented. And from there, of course, they were also a bit disappointed with Justice League as well. But they believe that the biggest problem with the feature is because of the clashing visions that are in the film. Because you got a mix of Zack Snyder's vision and Joss Whedon's vision. And they felt like if it weren't for Zack Snyder's daughter's suicide, then they would have had the Justice League that they wanted for so long. And thus, for 2.5 years, ever since the movie's release, fans have been making this protest that is infamously referred to as #ReleaseTheSnyderCut, where they believe that there is a version within the lot of Warner Brothers, that there is this version of the 2017 Justice League movie that is completely and 100% just Zack Snyder's version. And they have pleaded and demanded for that director's cut to go and happen. And ever since then, like, they still kept on trying, and they still kept on rallying up for all that time. Like, you'd think that it would have been just like a stupid little moan of protest and people would have moved on. No, they did not give up. They still kept on bringing it up even long after Justice League was ever relevant, and people were pretty much making fun of it because, well, let's be honest, it really is the stupidest meme, well, not the stupidest meme, but the stupidest movie-related hashtag ever created for cinema history. And that's why we've seen so many parodies of Release the Snyder Cut, where one famous example is Release the Butthole Cut, where apparently there was a version of the 2019 movie Cats where apparently the visual effects ended up accidentally creating buttholes for the characters. So people demanded that there should be a version of Cats where somehow they coincidentally have buttholes. Or another example that I saw, and this was something that I've recently seen with Pan Pizza's videos. He created a little funny parody called hashtag release the Seth Green cut, where Disney should release a version of Mars Needs Moms that the main character is entirely Seth Green, just like it was originally planned. So a lot of people were pretty much making fun of it, but now it seems like the joke has become all too real at this point. And now Warner Brothers is taking it so seriously that now they're actually going to do it. They're actually going to go and make a Snyder cut. Now, the big question is at this point right now is, now what? Okay, so the Snyder cut is going to be real. What are they going to do about it? All we know so far is that they would go and release it in 2021. Well, apparently in this article of The Hollywood Reporter, they did reveal that there's going to be a little bit of a game plan with what they want to do. And I'll take a bit of a big article here. I'll take a big section of it to really get down into the details about what's happening. Okay, yeah, it's just right over here. So reading from the Hollywood Reporter, it states, it is currently unclear what form Snyder's Justice League will take. Whether it will be released as almost 4 hours director's cut or split into 6 chapters has yet to be decided. But the Snyders are now in the midst of reassembling much of their original post-production crew to score, cut, and add new and finish old visual effects. And yes, maybe bring back many of the actors to record additional dialogue. Also unclear is the cost of the endeavor. One source has pegged the effort in the $20 million range, although another source say that figure could be closer to $30 million. The parties involved have no comment. It will be Zack Snyder states, by the way, it will be an entirely new thing, and especially talking to those who have seen the release movie. A new experience apart from that movie. And even stating that Zack Snyder has since never even seen the completed version of Justice League. He hasn't seen the entire 2017 movie, and even went as far and say that you probably saw 1/4 of what I did. And so basically he's stating that among like all the 2 hours in there, probably 30 minutes of it is purely of what Zack Snyder intended. But that seems to be the big story right now, is that, yep, the Snyder cut is real. Apparently they are gonna make it, and apparently it is gonna happen. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that it is real, because just like what many people have stated before, or when discussing about this argument, it's actually the case that both sides are actually correct. Where the fanboys who want the Snyder cut, yes, they are right. Warner Brothers is indeed going to release the Snyder cut. They are actually going to make that happen, and they will deliver it for them. But at the same time, the people who don't believe the Snyder cut existed, they are correct as well, because technically it is true that it never actually existed. There wasn't an actual Snyder cut that is left in the lot of Warner Brothers just waiting to be released, because right now, that's what Zack Snyder is doing. That's what he's currently trying to make. That's why it's going to take up to up to next year for him to go and release it, and why he's given an additional budget of like $20 to $30 million. That's the whole thing with that. So in terms of that argument, yes, both sides are pretty much correct in this case. But at the end of the day, it looks like next year we are going to have an actual Snyder cut of Justice League. Now, the big question at this point, it's just, you look at this and you have to ask, why? Why is it that Warner Brothers is caving in to the fanboys and pretty much just giving them their little Snyder cut? Like, why is this even happening in the first place? And I tried looking deep into it and seeing some of the things that are occurring and seeing some of the times that are happening of it. Honestly, I could think of 2 reasons at least to why Warner Brothers is doing it. Now, with those 2 reasons, there are also 2 reasons why it's obviously not the reason why Warner Brothers wants to do the Snyder cut of Justice League. Like, number one, it's not to capitalize on the movie. It's not really to go and capitalize on the Justice League because, as I've said before, it was a massive box office flop. It lost $60 million. Warner Brothers was way too ambitious, giving it way too much of a budget of $300 million. So it's not really a profitable movie to highly capitalize into. So that's the big thing from it. It's not really something that could really go and generate a lot of money for Warner Brothers. So obviously, it's not because of the movie itself. It's not because of the fact that it's a successful movie. And the second reason why they are not doing it, and this is going to be a bit of a controversial opinion, so brace yourselves, and I know that this might end up upsetting a few people, but the truth is, the DCEU is dead. Maybe Warner Brothers doesn't fully want to accept it, and I know a lot of fans don't want to accept it, but let's be honest. The DCEU was a complete disaster, and Warner Brothers wanted to do it mainly because they feel like they're obligated to, because they want to be the main competitors to Marvel. Marvel is doing extremely well with their cinematic universe and having a massive fan base and gathering huge amount of money in order to make those features. In fact, like right now, the highest grossing film of all time is officially Avengers Endgame. So, Warner Brothers feel like they have to be in a position where they have to have their own superhero cinematic universe to be in direct competition with Marvel, to have that illusion that there is still that whole DC versus Marvel thing going on. That's the big thing that they really want to do. However, the thing is with the DCEU, it's a flop. It's a failure. It just didn't really work out as well as they hope, not only critically, but also financially. I mean, there have been a few hits in the past where Warner Brothers did make money on some of their films, but critically, they've just been a joke. Like, regardless of what they could be, rather it be stuff like Man of Steel, technically the one that started it all, or stuff like like Suicide Squad, or especially Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Right now, they've been looked back as a joke, where nowadays people just mock and ridicule the elements that are in that film. Rather it be pinning Jared Leto as the weakest cinematic Joker, or especially Dawn of Justice, which right now is pretty much one of the most laughable superhero movies, or the superhero movie that people make fun of the most. Like, it's pretty much becoming the new Batman and Robin, but in terms of the tone, it's like the complete opposite, where you got Batman and Robin, where that one is just way too silly and over the top, whereas Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice, with that one, it's way too serious, it's way too dark and brooding to the point that you just cannot take it seriously. Not to mention right now that everybody to this day are still making fun of the whole Martha thing. In fact, like, even Warner Brothers themselves are kind of making fun of it. Like, I remember, like, that whole moment has been completely satirized and completely made fun of for Teen Titans Go to the movies. Like, they really made it a big thing to go and make fun of that. And on top of that, even though I did state that when it comes to, when it actually does come to the DCEU, I did say that Warner Brothers is not fully giving up on the DCEU. They still want to try to make a few movies for it, but even at that, they are starting to let go of the DCEU and would rather want to make DC movies that are just standalone, that they want to make their own movies that don't necessarily have to have any form of a connection to the previous DC films. Like, they don't have to have a connection to stuff like Dawn of Justice or 2017 Justice League and stuff like that. We've already seen that happen with Joker, which is not the Jared Leto version, but a completely new take on it that is completely different than what the DCEU is trying to do. And like there's even reboots of like movies that they try to do but they massively failed. Like right now there's a Suicide Squad reboot coming up where even though Margot Robbie is reprising her role as Harley Quinn, it's a completely new version that James Gunn is going to be directing. And then there is also The Batman, in which it's going to be an entirely new version with an entirely new cast. Like Ben Affleck is out of the picture. He is now replaced with Robert Pattinson, and they're going to do a new version of Batman. So even Warner Brothers, like despite still want to try to do the DCEU a thing, like they're stepping back and they realize it's just not working out. They might have made some money in the past, but they didn't get the critical reception that they wanted, and especially with the Justice League, which is supposed to be the big main movie, like the main course of the DCEU, that's supposed to be like the Avengers for DC. That one turned out to be a failure. It wasn't as critically well received, and it turned out to be a box office flop. So with that said, yeah, it's definitely not for the sake of like strengthening up the DCEU, because that thing is dead, rather if people want to accept it or not. So what is the reason? What is the reason why they would go and do it? Well, number one, it's obviously because of the fact of where it's going to be released. Not in theaters, but on HBO Max. And the thing is that essentially Warner Brothers' plan for this is that they want to trick the Snyder Cut fanboys into getting HBO Max. And not only getting HBO Max, but to keep it for a whole year, at least until the Snyder Cut would officially be released. That they want to do something to really hype up HBO Max, to really lure people into getting HBO Max. And they know that these Snyder Cut fanboys, they are desperate for it. They are ready to do anything to go and have the Snyder Cut, even if it means to catch the coronavirus and spread it onto their friends and family. If it means that they would go and get the Snyder Cut, they would be more than happy to go and do it. But in this case over here, okay, like I know like some may say that it's too extreme of an example, but that's just a bit of a hyperbole to pretty much emphasize of how desperate these fanboys are just for a Snyder Cut or a director's cut of a failed movie. But the thing is that the point that I'm making is that they are willing to do literally anything. And if it means to go and get HBO Max and like keep it in for like a whole year, they would go and definitely do it. So it's obviously to go and trick them to get their money, to have them onto their platform, even if they wouldn't necessarily be interested in anything that HBO Max would have to offer, except for the upcoming Snyder Cut that would be out in 2021. And I can guarantee you when it comes to the release of the Snyder Cut, if I could make a prediction, then I'm guessing that it would probably come out sometime, it would be more than a year. It's going to be either in the summer of 2021 or in the fall of 2021. That I can guarantee you, in order to maximize the profit that they can get from those Snyder Cut fanboys to lure them into HBO Max. Now, of course, this is just a theory. Now, I could be wrong on this one, but then again, the reason why I mention this is because it seems so highly suspicious of the fact that they would make this announcement in particular, but then again, like, they would do this announcement the week before the release of HBO Max. That, honestly, I find to be so fishy. That I find to be so suspicious about. That's one thing that I really want to emphasize, and why I feel like it really is to trick people into getting HBO Max. But if it's not for that, like, let's say I'm wrong on that theory, and if it's not for that, if it's not for tricking people into HBO Max, and if it's definitely not to go and strengthen the DCEU, and it's not to capitalize on the movie, then I think I know exactly what it is for. If there is one thing, it's because Warner Brothers has one message for the Snyder Cut fanboys.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
2.5 years. 2.5 years that the fanboys have been trying to desperately spread the message to keep using the hashtag again and again and again. Keep saying release the Snyder Cut, release the Snyder Cut, release the Snyder Cut, release the Snyder Cut. Protesting as if it was one of the biggest things that they needed. Protesting as if their human rights are in danger. That they needed this because it's an essential piece of life. That for some reason, they cannot breathe, they cannot live unless they get the Snyder Cut. For them, it's food, water, shelter, and the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. They've been at it for so long that they cannot let go of it. That ultimately, just like I said, Warner Brothers caved in just so these people could end they could end that hashtag. To give them what they want so that they could finally be quiet about it. To have these fanboys stop pestering both Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder so that they don't have to deal with these angry fanboys anymore. You'd think, like, normally these kinds of things would just be a trend. It would be a little fad that would come and go quickly. But no, they kept at it. They still kept on going for a Snyder Cut. That for some reason that Warner, somehow the reputation is at stake, and the only way that to save the DCEU is to have the Zack Snyder Cut. For some reason. Like, they have to kept on going. And just like I said before, it is the dumbest movie-related hashtag that has been created on social media, to the point that everybody was pretty much making fun of it. It just felt so annoying, and like, it long past the point where it was even funny to see angry fanboys demanding something that nobody really needed. That honestly, this is something that not even Warner Brothers nor Zack Snyder really needed this. That and honestly, like, if I could make a comment on those fanboys that kept on protesting for the Snyder Cut for years, it's that honestly, they're like, it really shows that they are very disrespectful to Zack Snyder himself, and that they obviously don't seem to care about his needs, and they only care about their needs. Because honestly, it's very justifiable why the Justice League movie came out as it is. Yeah, it might have been a little bit of a disjointed mess, but there is a reason. Because his daughter, like, come on, his daughter died. Like, really, his daughter died, he needed some time of grieving, and all you care about is just to have a freaking Snyder Cut just because you want to have some extended cut of a movie that might not even work anyways? Just to have an extended cut that they say that might even go on for almost 4 hours, or could be like a 6-part miniseries? Like, really? Are you really that desperate and so selfish that you really need that? That you really want Zack Snyder to get out of his way, and instead of making new ideas, instead of making new projects, you just want him to go back and work on a movie that is not even going to be worth it anyways. Like, really, dude? Like, honestly, it's kind of like, a give or take kind of thing with this whole situation, with the whole Snyder Cut thing. It's like, on one hand, it's absolutely ridiculous that Warner Brothers is doing it, but then again, at least there is a bright side that at least this will end that hashtag. It will end people from saying release the Snyder Cut. And if I may put my opinion on this, how this movie is going to be, honestly, I don't know. There is a possibility it could turn out to be better, it could turn out to be good, and it could actually turn out to be one of the best superhero movies in recent years. I don't know, but to be very honest, with the way things are going with the DCEU and with the past movies that came out of that universe, honestly, I feel like this whole Snyder Cut thing, it's gonna be a disaster. In fact, it's going to be as disastrous as the DCEU itself. Because, like, it's gonna be a 4-hour movie. It's gonna, like, essentially, at least the running time, regardless of how they're gonna release it, it's gonna be like this entire this whole 4-hour feature, and for what? To have like complete, like, just so we can have Zack Snyder's vision of the DC universe, because oh yeah, that definitely worked last time with freaking Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. Like, honestly, I could definitely tell you that, yes, there will be those fanboys who already established their bias that this is going to be the greatest thing ever, that this is going to be the next big cinematic masterpiece in Citizen Kane and stuff like that. But I can guarantee you that the grand majority of people who are actually going to go watch it, they're going to watch it out of irony, or they're just going to watch it out of curiosity. Like, there will be those people who, you know, like, they'll just see for themselves how things are going to be with this version, that they are indifferent about Justice League, but have heard about it so much because of this hashtag that they'll see it. But I can guarantee you that most of these people are just going to watch it, and, like, they're just going to see it by how disastrous it's going to be. Like, they're prepared to just go and make fun of it. And what this film it is, I wouldn't be surprised that what the Emoji Movie was in 2017 and what Cats was in 2019, the Snyder Cut of Justice League is going to be those kinds of films, but for 2021. And I'm sure there are plenty of people out there, or most people out there, that are pretty much armed and ready to go and ridicule it. But again, I could be wrong. Like, it could actually turn out, it could actually turn out to be good. It could turn out to be a movie that, like, maybe like, it just needed to have just Zack Snyder's vision of it. But honestly, I am not excited about this at all. And especially with the fact that with Warner Brothers actually doing this, my problem with it really is the fact that it does send out the wrong message to audiences. It really does send out the wrong message to people, especially with the fact that like, what Warner Brothers is trying to say is that as long as you keep on screaming and throw a temper tantrum like a triggered 2-year-old all the time, if you do that for like years on end, then eventually you'll get what you want. Like, right now, I can pretty much say that these Snyder Cut fanboys, they're going to be psychologically damaged. They're going to be psychologically damaged to thinking that this is how life works. They're going to think that if they keep on pestering and whining and complaining on the internet for years on end, then somehow they'll magically go and get what they want. So it really does spread out the wrong message. So honestly, I feel like with this whole thing right over here, even though it's most likely a trick to get people into getting like a year subscription of HBO Max, this honestly, I feel like it's going to do more harm than it actually will do good. So I don't know how the future will hold. I don't know if this is probably something that could actually work out for Warner Brothers. Most likely, probably the one thing that Warner Brothers is definitely going to gain from this is going to be more subscriptions for HBO Max, of course. So they will gain something out of it. But I feel like this is going to be a case where this will cause a lot more harm than it will do good. So with that said, it is now time that I will go into the chat wall, and I would like to go and ask you all, what do you think about the Snyder Cut now being real? Are you guys excited to go and see it? Are you guys a little weary about it? I really want to know what you think, and especially if you have seen the 2017 Justice League movie, I would love to know what you think of it, and if the Snyder Cut could actually help out to make that movie better. I want to know your thoughts on that. Okay. Let's see now. Oh boy, this trend. Although I haven't watched Justice League, which is a good thing, nor I'm a superhero fan, this is straight up ridiculous and stupid when these fanboys go too far, as much as protesters, to the point where Warner Brothers decided to say enough is enough. At least here's hoping Warner Brothers can have a better success with the Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe than the DCEU. And you know what? I just need to go and say this, because I know a lot of people out there love to make fun of like some really bad cinematic universes that don't work out, like the Dark Universe. But I will say, it really shows how Warner Brothers is very desperate to have their own cinematic universe. Like, the thing is, at least when it comes to, when it comes to the other companies doing cinematic universe outside of Disney, at least with Sony, they are starting off with something well. Like, they are starting off with something. It's like, at least with Venom, financially, it is off to a good start for their own cinematic universe, which, may I comment that, oh my god, what Sony did with their Spider-Man cinematic universe, it is, am I the only one that thought it's absolutely stupid and so narcissistic of Sony Pictures to give them that name of, like, what was it again? The Sony Pictures, cinematic, the Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters. Like, come on, man, that's just dumb. Like, so anyways, back to what I was saying, like, you got Sony, like, they're off to a good start so far with Venom and their universe, and at least with Warner Brothers, like, they know when to stop. They could see that with the Dark Universe it's not working out well, they're pretty much stepping back. But with Warner Brothers, on the other hand, my god, they keep on trying and trying and trying, and it just does not work out. They try to force a cinematic universe, but it just doesn't work. The DCEU is a prominent example, and another one is technically Legos. Like, they were off to a great start with the Lego movie, but then suddenly, it just came crumbling down years later, where by the time Lego Movie 2 happened, it was a box office bomb, and the Lego group decided to bail out of Warner Brothers to go work with Universal. So honestly, and yeah, like, Scoob, I mean, it's, like, with the Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe, it's way too early to say, like, if it's gonna work out or if it's not. But, yeah, honestly, with Warner Brothers, they're way too desperate for a cinematic universe. Let's see now. Am I in Wonderland? First, they revealed that there was a butthole cut for Cats, and now there's a Snyder cut for Justice League. I'm sure that DC fans are very happy about this news, and I'm fine that they are, but seriously, what's next? Is there a boob cut for Zootopia, where all the female characters originally had boobs? Or the boomer cut of Michael Bay's Transformers movies, where they had more explosions than usual? Also, I like to think that the DCEU will be rebooted when the Flash movie comes out. You never know, man. You never know with their plans. Let's see. I'm surprised that Zack Snyder will finally make his version of Justice League after 2.5 years since the film's release. For me, I only saw the movie once back in 2017 on an IMAX and thought it was a good movie and haven't thought much of it since then. I'm not begging for the Snyder Cut because I didn't enjoy his work on Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, but since the Snyder Cut will be on HBO Max, I might check it out, but not in a rush. Okay, that's fair. That's definitely fair. Let's see, what else do we got? Though I do enjoy some Zack Snyder's movies, but Batman v Superman and Justice League were so mediocre, but I am happy that Snyder finally gets to finish the movie he wanted to make, even if I potentially don't think it would be that good, but those fanboys are so annoying and toxic that a part of me didn't want it to happen. Seriously, this isn't Heaven's Gate. Personally, I would want Bakshi's original Hey Good Lookin' and Lord and Miller's take on Solo. They never finished it, but mostly #release the butthole cut. And yeah, like, honestly, from there, like, what I've noticed on social media, because there is the Snyder Cut, there's also a lot of jealousy that has been expressed, where there's a lot of movies that have never been finished, or that the original vision never really happened, where those are pretty much still lost forever, but the Snyder Cut is still gonna be happening. Like, some examples, like, yeah, like this comment brought up, like, Bakshi's original Hey Good Lookin' that would have been a mix of live action and animation. Or another prominent example, The Thief and the Cobbler, with, like, to finish off the original vision of what Richard Williams wanted to do with The Thief and the Cobbler. Like, that's been something that animation fans have been demanding for years. But I guess not even the cartoon community was toxic enough to make that happen, to capture Warner Brothers' vision in order to go and do it. I guess the toxicity of the Snyder Cut and them annoying the living hell out of Warner Brothers and Snyder himself was apparently enough to get their attention, and magically get them what they wanted. Again, it's a bad lesson that they're going to learn, and it's only going to increase the toxicity among the DCEU fan base. Again, it's going to do more harm than it is going to do good. Let's see now. This movement will only reinforce why corporations generally don't listen to fans in the first place. A dangerous precedent might lead to not just another flop like Cats 2019, but an offensive and crude mess like the Garbage Pail Kids movie. Let's see now. What else do we got? You know, I've spent most of my time thinking it didn't exist. I even thought it wasn't even filmed, but now I'm just completely baffled that it's real. I didn't like Justice League too well, but it's a passable superhero movie that serves its purpose well, and it's nice to see some closure on its end. However, now that we have the Snyder Cut, I gotta ask, can we please get the Ayer cut of Justice League? Do you mean Suicide Squad? I think you meant Suicide Squad. If you're talking about like David Ayer and his original take on Suicide Squad, you probably mean that. Anyways, I much prefer to see the butthole cut. $1 million idea right there. Okay, that's interesting. I'll go and read one more comment before we're gonna jump into the next story. Let's see, who would have one? Let's see. Okay. I'll go with here. Not even going to be into this like in general. I've seen this movie even with some of the other films, and it doesn't really make it enticing enough to make me want to be into this universe. It's not personal. It's nothing personal. Wonder Woman was great, but I just really hate the direction, especially of the portrayal of Batman is absolutely terrible. Ben Affleck really does look the part. His reasoning of becoming a mercenary and dialogue that's just ridiculously bad, that even Will Arnett was better. Yeah, and I mean, it's just like I said, it's not like Justice League itself, it's not the worst movie, but does it really, really need a director's cut? Absolutely not. Alright, so now that we got that story out of the way, now that we got that big bucket to fill out, it is now time that we are going to go and jump onto the next story. And we're going to go a little bit into theme park news. And this is coincidentally related to what I talked about before. You might remember a few weeks ago when I talked about how China was pretty much prepared to go and reopen Shanghai Disneyland. Well, apparently the reopenings are going to start off to open up in America, where there are going to be some places that they are going to be opening, especially in Florida. And the one that I'm going to be talking about is going to be Legoland Florida. Yes, Legoland Florida has officially gotten the green light from the Florida government in order to go and reopen on June 1st. So as I am recording this, they are going to reopen it just a little over a week. So it's actually going to be pretty soon. And with this reopening, though, they did state that they're going to be extremely careful about it, that they will put a massive priority in terms of the safety of their guests. To read a little bit from my source here, from Attractions Magazine, it states, the health and safety of our guests and employees at Legoland Florida Resort continues to be paramount. In preparation for the reopening of our resort, we have developed a comprehensive plan of enhanced health and safety measures that received endorsement from the Polk County Commission and Winter Haven Mayor Bradley T. Dancer this week. Our reopening plan, along with both local government endorsement letters, was submitted to Governor Ron DeSantis, which he did confirm and gave the green light, by the way, this morning. We're ready to play, and we look forward to reopening Legoland Florida Resort as a safe and memorable place for families to play again soon. And with that said, considering that they are putting a massive priority onto the health and safety of their guests, they are going to take a lot of precautions. Number one being putting a maximum capacity of just 50%. So they can only go and accept 6,000 people at a time in their entire resort, not just in the theme park, but also like in the restaurants and the hotels and all that kind of stuff. So all within, they're only going to have a 50% capacity. And on top of that, they're also going to be very strict. They're also going to be very strict when it comes to like social distancing, to make sure people go and practice that. And also they highly recommend that not only the employees, which they're going to be massively suited up for this, but also the guests would go and wear a mask. Now, this is not a mandatory thing. They're like, the guests are not required to go and have a mask, but they highly encourage for guests to go and do so. And if they didn't bring their own mask, then LEGO will go and give them a complimentary mask when they go in. So again, it is highly required, but, well, not highly required, but it is highly recommended, but not necessarily a mandatory thing to have their guests wear a mask. And also on top of that, they are going to do some temperature testing as well, that they're not going to let in any guest who has a fever of 100.4 degrees as well. So they are taking all that precaution when they are going to go and open on June 1st. But at the same time, as a lot of people have mentioned in the chat wall that I saw, Legoland Florida was not the only place that have announced that they want to go and reopen, because there is also Universal Orlando. And Universal Orlando this week has also announced that they are going to go and reopen their theme parks, but a little bit after Legoland Florida, where they are going to be opening on June 5th. And on top of that, of course, just like with Legoland Florida, they are going to go and take a lot of precautions as well. I'm going to go and read from my source here, this time on The Hollywood Reporter, where some of these requirements state the theme park will open to a lower capacity, which will increase as time goes on, according to the plan. An on-site inspection took place with government officials on Thursday morning prior to the task force meeting. There were no concerns from those officials following the inspection, task force officials said. Mask and temperature checks will be required for both visitors and employees. If a guest does not have a mask, one will be provided for them, officials said. So unlike Legoland Florida, it's going to be required. It's going to be mandatory in Universal Orlando that you have to wear a mask. On top of that, they also said interactive play areas have been closed. There will be no more valet parkings. Mist areas will be closed. There will be no more post-show meet and greets. All menus will be paper single-use in restaurants. Cash will still be accepted, but the park is trying to minimize it. Employees will self-check at home and then be checked again once they arrive at work. And by the way, just on an extra note, when it comes to Universal side of things, they have been testing out to see if they want to go and fully reopen. Not just in the case of for their theme parks, but it has been a little while now that they opened their downtown district, City Walk, the place where it mainly houses many of the restaurants, many of the shops, and all that kind of stuff, where they slowly test things out to see if people are actually going to go and respect the rules when they enter into Universal Orlando, to do mandatory masks, to do social distancing, and to take all the precaution to make sure that Universal can be safe during this time. And of course, like, and this is in the case of both for like Legoland and Universal, that they will go and sanitize everything. Like, they will be a lot more strict on that to their employees to make sure everything will be sanitized as soon as possible, and like very frequently as well. So that's going to be a major thing. And of course, like handing out sanitizers, like a place where you can go and sanitize your hands everywhere. So that's going to be a major thing that they will go and do. But going back to what I was talking about with Universal, they have opened up City Walk, and that's the big test that they wanted to do. And of course, Disney has done the same thing as well with Walt Disney World, where so far they have only opened Disney Springs in order to go and test out to see if people will go and respect the rules of wearing mandatory masks, and also to practice social distancing, and for them to always wash their hands and to keep them sanitized, and also to train their employees to prepare to go and respect these rules as well, but also to do their jobs. So that's pretty much the big thing with all this. And of course, the big debate when it comes to these reopenings is always going to be, is this really going to be a good idea? Especially in the case of the theme parks in Florida. Because right now, if you look in the case of Florida and how things are with them when it comes to the pandemic and how they're handling the situation, well, I could definitely say that they are no China. Because the thing is, China has been doing extremely well. As I've said before, they've mostly got it under control. If not, they got it under control more so than almost all the other countries in the world. But even when they would go and reopen Shanghai Disneyland, they're still being extremely careful about it. They are being extremely careful to make sure that when reopening Shanghai Disneyland, they're taking all these massive precautions like social distancing, people wearing masks, temperature checks, sanitizing everything as soon as possible, and all that kind of stuff. And it seems like with Universal and Legoland, they are doing the same thing. But in the position of Florida, things, it's wonky. I think that's the best way to describe it. Because, like, when you look at the numbers of how many confirmed cases there have been, like, it really is just up and down. Sometimes you'll get a good day where their numbers is just around 500 more cases, but then they'll have their bad days where it's close to around 1,000 new infected people and all that kind of stuff, and it really is kind of wonky. And not to mention that Florida right now is really in hot water when it comes to their testings and how they might allegedly be hiding some of these numbers because they're prioritizing on reopening the economy more so than the health and safety of others, to make it to give out the illusion that if they don't give out the numbers anymore, then they're gonna go and make it look like it's safe to come to Florida and it's safe to reopen everything to put things back to normal and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much the big situation that is happening. But I could pretty much say that I think you don't even have to do some research to know for a fact that Florida is definitely one of those states that really prioritizes reopening the economy more so than the health and safety of their citizens. So with that said, that's why when I do look at Universal Orlando and Legoland Florida trying to reopen and stuff like that, and I will say, the thing is with both these resorts, they're not dumb. Like, they really are taking a massive precaution. Like, they're doing everything they can to go and open up slowly. That they know that there's a pandemic and that they really want to go and prioritize the health and safety of their guests. So they are taking some massive precautions and they're doing everything in their part to find the right mixture, like the perfect balance between reopening their theme parks and also taking care of the health and safety of their guests. So they are working hard on that and they're not stupid about it. But the thing is, the question, like, the big question of all this is not regarding are the theme parks ready to go and reopen. It's more in general, is Florida ready to go and reopen? And I'm going to be very honest with what we've seen so far and with the allegations against them. Like, and also another thing about Florida is, like, regarding the tests that, even though they are supplying a sufficient amount of tests, it's when coming out of the results, it's not working out well for some reason. They're not handling the situation where some have gone missing, some cannot be conducted, and some that have been damaged and all that kind of stuff. Like, even that part is a bit of a mess. So honestly, I don't know if Florida does seem that ready to go and reopen their stuff. That's the big thing that really seems a little bit iffy and really unsure about the situation. And I will say also that if the case is the fact that in Florida there's another wave that did occur after the reopenings, and if it is actually caused by the reopening of stuff like Universal Orlando and Legoland Florida, then absolutely those theme parks should be held accountable. But the main culprit who should be at fault is both the Florida government and, of course, the US government, since right now they are among the worst when it comes to handling this pandemic. And I mean, as I'm recording this, the US is at like what? Like nearly 1.7 million confirmed cases, and like they're actually getting really close to getting 100,000 deaths in total, making it the first country in the world to surpass 100,000 deaths caused by the coronavirus. So really, it's the so really in this case, it's more the government that should be blamed than the theme parks. But the theme park should hold some accountability if there is another wave that is caused by this. So overall, in my opinion, I feel like really these theme parks, they should have waited. They should wait a little bit more. They should have waited maybe until in my opinion, they probably should have waited until July to make sure things are really settled, to make sure things really are under control. I feel like opening it in early June is just way too soon, especially right now that we are towards the end of May. So I don't know. I just feel like this is just they're playing a very dangerous game so far. So I don't know. Like, I know that the theme parks, they're doing what they can, but reopening it at this point, I don't know. It's just Florida ain't ready, man. I just don't feel Florida is ready to reopen, especially for major places like Universal and Legoland. So, I mean, of course, we would have to wait and see with how it goes, but I have my doubts. I think that's the big thing to say, is that I have my doubts. Alright, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you guys, what is your opinion onto the reopening of Universal Orlando and Legoland Florida? Do you think that it's about time that they should be reopened? Do you think that they're handling well with their reopening? Do you think it's way too soon? Let me know what you all think on this. Okay. Now, let's see. Actually, this is something that I would love to know. Is especially like one opinion that I would love to know the most is from Florida residents, and we actually do have one here. As an unfortunate resident of Florida, I'm waiting to graduate so I can move out. This is a terrible idea. I know that they're being careful, but the only way to safely reopen the parks and the economy is simply testing. Test everyone. Test me and test the neighbors and the weirdo in Tampa. These governors want to reopen the economy without doing much of the work. Excuse my language, but fuck DeSaints and Trump. He's not the one I wanted, but I'm voting the hell out of Biden in November. Good for you, man. Good for you. Honestly, and I'm saying this unironically, by the way. Like, you definitely should. You and, like, every other American should, actually. But yeah, like, I think, like from the Florida person, I think it really does confirm what I'm saying about the fact that, like, the testing and how things are with Florida, it really is wonky, and especially with the fact that Florida really does want to prioritize more reopening the economy. So honestly, yeah, it really does seem pretty iffy, but thank you for confirming to me on that case, and best of luck to you on November, man. Anyways, I don't know if it's a good question, but some of the reopened parks like Legoland and Universal, do you think each of their restaurants will allow only 1-2 tables available, and when their guests are done, they'll need to really scrub the tables squeaky clean just in case the virus is taking a nap on those seats, waiting to pounce as next victim? What about those seats and roller coaster rides? Oh yeah, absolutely. They absolutely got to do it. In fact, it's probably in this article here on the Legoland one. where they actually mentioned that and really answer your question here. So they mention, as for cleaning and sanitization in the parks, Legoland employees will follow a strict regiment, which will include regular sanitization of restaurant tables and seats, handles, and other high-touch surfaces like parts of the rides, door handles, and restrooms. There will also be a number of hand sanitizer dispensers available. So that will answer your question. So the answer is abso-freaking-lutely. Let's see now. What else do we got? I'm really glad Universal is reopening, although truth be told, I wasn't really expecting Legoland of all places to reopen this soon. This year, I had to sacrifice a vacation to Florida due to the pandemic, which is a shame since I was pretty excited, but I'm glad this is a sign where the pandemic is starting to slow down. I think. It still depends on what Big Dawn is doing. But there's one thing that still needs to be said, of course. What is happening to City Walk movie theater? I mean, the ban on the universe. Oh yeah, because the thing is, the movie theater in City Walk is an AMC, and we all know what happened with the whole ban on Universal movies. So I don't know, honestly. It's a big awkward situation there. But, no, I do know how you feel about the sacrifice of your vacation. In fact, like, honestly, like, it's the same with me. Like, even I had to make some sacrifices. Because, like, I don't know if you guys may have noticed, but the thing is, if it weren't for this pandemic, I would be in Georgia right now. I would actually, no, not in Georgia, sorry. I would be in Arizona right now. Like, technically, this would have been the weekend of Phoenix Fan Fusion, and I would have been at Phoenix Fan Fusion just hanging out with Cell Specs and, Toucan LDM with Logan and all those people. I could have been a guest in the convention, but no, that has to be delayed in September, and I don't know if it's even going to be staying in September with how poorly the pandemic is being handled in the U.S., so honestly, I do get what you mean with making those sacrifices. It really does suck. Anyways, where are we? Let's see now. Where are we, lad? God, yeah, the Florida guy, like, even added the extra comment, God, that felt good. Man, I know how you feel, bro. Good job, man. Good job on the comment! Alright, anyways, let's see what we have here. The way Universal and LEGO opened their park in Florida is pretty risky. I could see the experiment they are trying to do, and I wish the best of luck for LEGO and Universal in this experiment and this pandemic. Yeah, and that is true, because technically this is a massive risk. It is a serious risk on reopening the park, especially when Florida right now doesn't seem to be fully ready to go and actually reopen their businesses when the coronavirus is still around, pretty much still infecting a lot of people, either like on a good day just 500 people or on a bad day like more than 1,000 people. So it really is a massive risk. But again, the question is not should the theme parks reopen. The bigger question is, should Florida reopen in general? That's what we should be more concerned about. Let's see now. This is too soon to open LEGO Florida and Universal Orlando. The government, or even the governor of Florida, should have just waited and see how the testing goes, or if the cases go down. My state of North Carolina and the governor have been taking precautions to reopen the economy as we now enter phase 2 with precaution measurements, and I applaud them for doing so. They should have done just like my North Carolina governor is doing, and that's it. Enough said. This dude is showing off here. This guy here just walking in with his North Carolina and his North Carolina governor coming in going, yo, my state's doing better than yours. We're already in phase 2 in the reopening. They should be more like me. Yeah, I'm just fooling around, man. I completely agree with what you say. Honestly, I do understand with what you are talking about. Yeah, I'm just teasing. I'm just having a little bit of fun. But no, you do bring up a good point that, like, it is most likely too soon that they're doing this. All right, I'll go and read one more quick little comment. Let's see. Tell that to Disney about making risks with their films. They become utter garbage. Okay, this is just a rant about. This is just a random Disney rant. All right. Anyways, do we have one more? Okay. This isn't. Oh, this is actually a good one. Or yeah, okay, why not? This isn't a Republican or Democrat issue. Ohio's governor is a staunch Republican, and he is handling it well, so party lines aren't an excuse. It's competence. Exactly. That's the big thing that people should remember about the pandemic. This isn't a political issue. This is where everyone is in danger. This is where, like, everyone needs to work together in order to make this work. Like, honestly, screw your politics or anything like that. Like, regardless if you're a liberal or a conservative, screw whatever your beliefs are. We need to be in this together in order to work things out, and we need to prioritize the health and safety of the people. Like, let's be honest, the economy is dead. Let's try to go and focus on saving ourselves before saving the economy. Okay, so now with that said, I know that the news here seems a little bit controversial or not necessarily that happy per se, like with the Snyder Cut and the controversial reopenings of the theme parks in Florida. Why don't we go into some happier times, some more, some better news, something to really get excited about in the future. And I think I know just the ticket, because this was something that was just announced, and my God, this was something that a lot of animation fans are really happy about. In fact, I would even debate and say that in terms of revival projects, rather it be the Genndy Tartakovsky Popeye from last week, or the Snyder Cut of the Justice League, this one is probably the best thing to be revived ever. Or at least in terms of the recent revivals that we've been getting in 2020. What a coincidence. Tuca Bertie is back, folks! Yes! Tuca Bertie is officially gonna have a season 2. But not on Netflix, however. It's not gonna be on Netflix here. It is actually going to be on Adult Swim. Yes, Adult Swim has officially picked up a brand new season of Tuca and Bertie, which was once on Netflix, but now it is going to be arriving onto Adult Swim. To read a little bit from my source here on The Hollywood Reporter, once again, it states... Adult Swim will bring the 10-episode second season of the series from Tornate Co. in 2021 with an option of additional seasons. Tuca and Bertie was canceled after one season at Netflix despite rave reviews for the show and the voice cast featuring breakout comedian Tiffany Haddish and Ali Wong. Both, along with co-star Stephen Young, will return for season 2. We also got a comment here coming from the creator, which I just need a quick reminder of who it is. Yes. We actually got a comment here coming from Lisa Hannawalt, as she states about the revival. I've been a fan of Adult Swim shows since my teens, so I'm thrilled to bring my beloved fowl to the party and be a new voice for a fresh decade of absurd, irreverent, and yet heartwarming adult animation. So that's pretty much the big thing that we got, is that in 2021, we are going to get Tuca and Bertie, at least their comeback. And honestly, this really seems like a massive surprise, and especially with what has happened with Tuca and Bertie, because when you look at their performance with what they have done in on Netflix, they were really off on the right track to become the next BoJack Horseman. Maybe not necessarily going into the same themes, but really to be this adult animated series that has a massive fan base and also a very similar art style, especially like when it's just like human bodies, but the heads are just animals. So there are some similarities, of course, but my point is that it would have been on the right track to be the next BoJack Horseman for Netflix. And when it was on Netflix last year in 2019, like, it was huge. A lot of people seemed to love it. It got, yeah, like this article said, it got rave reviews from critics, audiences adored it, it had a huge cult following, and not only that, but also, like, it got a lot of awards, like, well, not awards, but a lot of recognition from a lot of websites, and a lot of people were even naming it one of the best new shows of 2019. And even at the Annie Awards, it got nominated for 3 Annies, and it actually won one for, I believe, best writing for a TV show, I believe. It did, but yeah, my point is that it did get 3 Annie nominations and did receive one of them. So it was off on the right track to go and start things off very well. But the only problem is just that Netflix suddenly decided to just cancel it. They didn't necessarily specify as to why they canceled it. A lot of people speculated that it's probably the algorithm on Netflix that really screwed the series over. And as a YouTuber who has to deal with algorithms to really determine like if my work would be successful or not, I completely know how Lisa feels about that situation at the time. A lot of people, like, it was kind of a strange case that for a show that was becoming so big, so popular, and so beloved, that they decided to just drop it all together. So honestly, it's actually quite a surprise to see that Adult Swim decided to step in and actually go and revive the project altogether. And honestly, this is not the first time that we would see stuff like this actually happen on television. This has happened before, of course. But it's very rare that we would even see that for animation. That would be very rare. Like, the last time that I would think of an animated series that would jump from one network to another is probably Star Wars Clone Wars, where it was on Cartoon Network for a bit, but then afterwards moved to Disney XD or Disney Channel and stuff like that. But that was mainly because of the whole Lucasfilm buyout from Disney. So that's more of an exception. But in this case over here, it's very rare that we would find an animated film that was so beloved but got canceled early, and then another cable network would go and come in and they would go and pick it up for themselves. A great example, actually, if you want to look into the live action stuff, there have been several shows that did occur that before, but probably the best example of something like this happening is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Now, Brooklyn Nine-Nine was a very successful show when it was on Fox. It had a huge fanfare. It was like one of the biggest comedy series on television that everybody was watching and everybody was having a great laugh. It was pretty much becoming the next Office in a way. But suddenly, Fox decided they didn't want any more, and they ultimately decided to go and cancel it, which did cause a lot of controversy, which really did shock a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine fans. But then suddenly, NBC stepped in and noticed all these people that were freaking out about the cancellation, and I think it was just a few months after it got canceled on Fox, NBC decided, we're gonna pick up the show and we're gonna give you more seasons. And at that point, it was probably one of the smartest things that NBC has done in recent years, because now they are really reaping in the rewards and really going well with their network with airing Brooklyn Nine-Nine episodes. So they're really benefiting a lot with bringing that show back onto their network. And I'm sure it's pretty much going to be the exact same case with Adult Swim, where now they're bringing back Tuca and Bertie for 2021, and I think they're going to be rewarded very well. I think a lot of people are going to be very excited to see the comeback Tuca and Bertie, but now onto Adult Swim. It's going to be like a strange transition because it is like probably the first time that we have heard that a show that started on a streaming service is now moving onto a cable network. But still, at least it is coming back in some form. At least we are going to get more Tuca and Bertie, and they're really going to continue. And the beauty of it is that they did promise not just a second season, but they are promising the possibility of more seasons if things are actually going well with their run on Adult Swim. So overall, I do find this to be an amazing thing. I think this is honestly great, and it does make me happy to see the animation community have a big smile on their face to see the grand return of Tuca and Bertie. And this is a great comeback story to see how even some there are ways where even some shows can actually get a second chance. And I think this is the best thing about this, is the fact that there is a show that got a second chance after just one season. So it will be exciting to see what else Adult Swim is going to do, and what Lisa Hannawalt is going to do with these birds. So I guess we'll just have to go and keep an eye out on that for when Tuca and Bertie return on Adult Swim in 2021. So with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to go and ask your thoughts on the return of Tuca and Bertie. Especially if you guys are a fan of Tuca and Bertie on Netflix, what are your thoughts now that it's going to be coming back on Adult Swim? Let me know what you all think on this. Alright, let's see now. Tuca and Bertie Season 2, huzzah! On Adult Swim, not so huzzah, because that's a channel that doesn't come in my country. But I am still happy for the show to make a comeback. By the way, this last part of the comment is just it's just a me thing, but if only Skylanders Academy, another Netflix show, got a similar treatment, but either on Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon, or heck, maybe a sequel series. Okay, so at least we got one person that's happy to see the return of it. Okay, so let's see now. It's actually really ironic with 2020's treatment on certain mediums. Terrible year for general film buffs, great year for animation fans, but seriously, Tuca and Bertie was a really good show despite a weak start, so I'm glad it's making the leap from streaming to cable. But now that Tuca and Bertie is going to Adult Swim, what's next? Comedy Central picking up Big Mouth, Green Eggs and Ham getting a theatrical run? Who knows? Well, I mean, technically they're still happening on Netflix. I mean, they're not canceling either Big Mouth or Green Eggs and Ham anytime soon. So those are going to be staying on the streaming service. But for now, Tuca and Bertie did find a new home. That's kind of the big thing. Let's see now. What else do we got? Oh, okay. So, congrats to the people who created Tuca and Bertie. I never watched the show, but I'm glad this cult show is getting another season on Adult Swim. All right, that's nice. What else? I never get why Tuca and Bertie got by Netflix in the first place, but I do praise Adult Swim for saving the show, and hopefully more seasons to come. I didn't see the first season of Tuca and Bertie, but I'm happy to see the show would get to live another day. All right, that's nice. Let's see. I guess I'll just go and read one more comment. A similar thing happened with One Day at a Time, which was canceled by Netflix, but then got picked up by the Pop Network. Oh, okay, so this has happened before then. Alright, so that's nice. So, yep, if you guys want to go and check out Tuca and Bertie, well, I guess the thing is, if you want to go and hype yourself up for it, you could go and check it out on Netflix for Season 1, and then next year, you'll be ready for Season 2. Okay, so for the next story, believe it or not, we are going to do something we haven't done in a long time. You'd think that this would be kind of extinct because of this whole pandemic. But no, we actually got some of these. Believe it or not, we actually have a couple of trailers. Yes, we are actually going to go and check out some trailers right now. Yeah, and some people are wondering about Muppets Now. Yes, I am aware about Muppets Now being announced, But the thing is that I don't think Muppets Now actually has a trailer released. Did they actually got a trailer? Actually, I know they announced the release date, but did Muppets Now actually got a trailer? That's all I'm asking. Did it, guys? Did anybody know? If you can answer my question, I just would like to know. Did Muppets Now? No? Okay, no. All right, no. It's just the fact that, yeah, as much as I am excited for Muppets Now to be released, there's not really much to go and talk about it. Like, yeah, it's being released on July 31st. I'm excited for it, but I mean, that's all there is to talk about. But yes, anyways, going back to what I am talking about with this one in particular. Now, for this trailer, the first one that I have here, this is something that chances are you've probably already seen. This is already more than a week old, but I figured why not go ahead and talk about this right now, because this is something I've recently discovered, and you need to go and see this for yourself, because debatably, this is much better than it should be. It has no right to be as good as it is right now. So with that said, let us go and start things off by checking out the trailer for LEGO Monkie Kid. So hold on a sec, let me go and set myself up. So let's go ahead and check it out right now.
The thing you need to understand about the old legends is that the story is never finished.
Hey! You've been slacking off all morning.
Yeah, I was about to take my break, so...
I've got a dozen orders that need to go out, so quit slacking and get packing.
Yes, Father! Rise! Rise! Someone ordered some noodles? Once we get the Monkey King's staff, we will be unstoppable! All the more reason to get this staff to Monkey King. Flower Fruit Mountain. It's the only place he could be.
Indeed. However, Flower Fruit Mountain is hidden away deep in dangerous and unknown territory.
Oh, you're just a little noodle boy playing at being a hero.
You might have that old fool's staff, but you are not the Monkey King.
You're right. I'm the Monkey Kid.
So that is the trail. Oh, hold on a sec. There we go. So that was the trailer for LEGO Monkie Kid. This is a LEGO series. And yet this looks like one of the most badass things I've ever seen. Like, what the frick? How is it that it looks so good? It's crazy, honestly. It's pretty much a combination of like an epic anime, but now in the form of Legos. In fact, like more than half the time, like you would forget that this is even a series based on Legos. Now, the thing is that I would like to mention about this series in particular is that I don't know when it's actually going to be released sometime in... I don't know when it's going to be released in North America, because so far it looks like it's mainly in China that they're actually getting this series. China and I think the Philippines, like in Malaysia or Mongolia or something like that. It's more like around the China area that they are showing this. And even though, yeah, this isn't in English, but we don't know if we have like a channel like either Disney Channel or Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or anyone that's going to pick this up. And by the way, just one quick mention, by the way, considering a lot of people have mentioned about me regarding this situation, but just a quick mention that it is kind of worrisome in the current situation with China. I know I've already stated before that, yeah, they got it under control with the coronavirus, but now that they've pretty much almost settled that whole situation, now that they got that under control, the war between China versus Hong Kong has resumed, and it looks like China is winning to where Hong Kong might be losing their independence, and that is honestly very worrisome that Hong Kong could lose their democracy. So just a quick shout out that my heart goes to the Hong Kong people, and that hopefully they won't lose their independence, that they won't, that they will still have their democracy. And I just do hope for the best that things don't go too far with China's actions to go and take down Hong Kong. But anyways, going back to what I'm talking about, I mean, well, technically it is no surprise that for Monkey Kid, it is, that is something that is mainly in China, especially when the series is mainly about, or the series is based on a popular Chinese legend. It's about the Monkey King. And with the Monkey King, like, not only is it a very well-known legend in China, but often it is something that's frequently portrayed in pop culture in the country as well. In fact, there's actually a very popular animated movie franchise that is in China. Like, there's an entire, well, I think there's actually, like, even some live action movies of it where you might have heard, like, if you're an animation fan, then chances are you've probably heard of the Monkey King movies that are in China. So considering that it is this one here with the Monkey Kid, it is a series that is based on that Chinese legend, then it should be no surprise that they would also go and have it mainly be for Chinese audiences. But honestly, looking at this, it is freaking amazing. Like, this trailer just blows my mind, honestly, with how action-packed that they are making it. And I mean, in a way, if I would have to criticize it a little, like, the plot itself does sound a little bit too much like Kung Fu Panda, in a way where the main character is technically just a noodle boy, but he is destined for greatness and has to set off on this big quest to become like this Kung Fu master, in a way. Well, maybe not necessarily a Kung Fu master. In this case here, it's to be like, to return the golden staff to the Monkey King. Like, they have their own mission, but a lot of action, but it is a series that is very action-oriented and does involve a lot of Chinese mythology, very similarly to Kung Fu Panda. So there are those strong similarities in terms of the narrative, but other than that, I will say this actually does look intense and actually very well animated. The animation here is beautiful. It's very, of course, it is very anime inspired, but still, it looks like it's a lot of fun. It looks like something that would have some memorable characters, like already with the main roster that you have here. Like, they look like very popular characters. Well, not popular characters. You do get some some standout personalities per se. Like, you got the main hero that can be a bit quirky. Like, you got the girl on the side that more like like she might, I don't know, with the way that, like, she's totally into her phone, she might be the Valley Girl type. And then, of course, like, you can't go out without the brains. You got to have your brainy dude with the with the round glasses. And then you also got you got the main character's boss, who is a pig that's running the noodle shop, that's also joining on their adventures. It's kind of weird that we didn't really see a clip with the giant blue guy that's on the left. Okay, except for, like, yeah, he does seem like an ally here, like giving a big hug, like, to the girl and the guy. So yeah, like, he'll probably be a buddy, like the strong giant dude that's gonna join them on their adventure. That's also a part of the Chinese mythology. But just, like, again, if we look into the animation, it is actually very action-packed. And not only that, but I think, like, what really sells it is that they have some very strong use of angles. Like, just the way where the camera is placed and where, like, everything is set, it's all in a very interesting angle. And, like, you do get some really good shots. Like, a good example, like this little moment here. Hold on. Like, this part, like, where we see, like, one of the villains fighting off the Monkey Kid. Like, it's very intense. And, like, as I said before, like probably throughout most of the time, I completely forgot this is a Lego series. This is, like, these are little Lego these are meant to be, like, Lego characters. But in a way, like, they're not really designed as Lego characters in a sense. Like, they don't fully have that Lego shape. like especially in the anatomy where it is a lot more flexible. Like the only way that you could tell that they are Lego characters are the fact that like their arms are just like their hands are just claws. They're all yellow. They don't have a nose, and their heads are a little bit more of like a cylinder shape, and that's it. But throughout most of the time when watching this trailer, you completely forgot this is supposed to be a full-on Lego series. But honestly, it's just pretty epic, and I really do hope that there is a day that this series actually does come to North America, because I think this is something that it should really be something that people should behold. And I think like especially the fact that this is a Lego property, like even with the toys and stuff like that, like if there are actual Lego sets of the Monkey Kid, like I would love to see them come by in North America, and I'm sure they can create some pretty action-packed stuff with it, that like a lot of sets that would actually really look cool. They'll be stupidly expensive like how Legos are nowadays, but honestly, I would be intrigued to see like what they would do with this. So overall, yeah, this is actually really epic, and honestly such a great trailer. And I don't know when it would be coming in North America, but I really do hope that one day it actually does, because this so far, I would say it's hands down the best looking Lego series that I've seen. Alright, so with that said, I would like to go and ask you all in the chat wall, what do you think about this trailer for LEGO Monkie Kid? Would you be interested in checking this show out? Would you be interested to see it come by in North America or in Europe or in other places in the world, or where you are right now? I would love to know what do you all think of this series? Do you like it? Do you not like it? I really want to know your thoughts on this. Alright, let's see now. I have a lot of issues on the Chinese government, hashtag liberate Hong Kong, but that sentiment shouldn't apply to their art. I think we should be more open to other stories from around the world. One of my favorite movies last year was the Chinese drama Long Day's Journey into the Night, which is fantastic and is currently streaming on the Criterion channel if you want to check it out. It's a long and slow... Why can't I speak? It is long and slow, but it's so beautiful. Yeah, and honestly, why not? I think, like, we should see more Chinese TV shows and more Chinese movies, show up around the world. Like, honestly, with all the animated films that have been present in China, I would love to see more of them come by onto countries like in Europe and North America, you know? Like, why is it just G Kids that's just doing it so far? Like, I know they've done a few, for example, I believe they brought the White Snake onto here. So, like, why can't we have more of these Chinese series or Chinese movies come onto here, you know? Like, it would be interesting to check them out. Let's see, what else do we got? A 2D Lego series? Shut up and take my money. The animation reminds me a lot of the works of Studio Trigger, like Promare and BNA Brand New Animal. I sure hope for China's independence. Nobody wants a dictatorship. I mean, it has the word dick. Does it not raise any red flags? Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, like, all we could do is just hope for the best that China doesn't Trumpify the Hong Kong and their own country. Let's see now. Trailers. How I miss thee. But honestly, this is really cool. The animation is surprisingly amazing, and I like how it's actually 2D as opposed to CG. The action is great, and I like the anime style tone. I'll likely check this out, and hell, maybe I'll buy a set or two, why not? However, if it proves successful enough for a movie, let's hope it isn't too overbearing on the father-son theme like the LEGO Ninjago movie was. Yeah, honestly, if they do make a movie out of this, then honestly, I would be very interested, and I wouldn't worry too much if it would become like the LEGO Ninjago movie, because the big problem with LEGO Ninjago movie, I find, is that it's trying too hard to be like the LEGO movie, that it's so dependent on trying to stay within that theme. So, now that it is under the hands of Universal, maybe they're going to take it to a completely different direction, and if they would do, like, the Monkey Kid movie, like make a whole Lego Movie Monkey Kid movie, I would be so freaking down for that. And especially like if it's gonna be like in the hands of like a company like if it's gonna be like from DreamWorks or Illumination, then that would be like a freaking bonus, man. Especially DreamWorks. Like, yeah, we know, like they know what they're doing with Kung Fu Panda. Imagine what they can do with like freaking Lego Monkey Kid. That would be incredible. Let's see now. I'm not a huge fan of the LEGO brand, but I will give this series a chance. The character designs don't really feel LEGO, they feel more human. Oh, and the animation looks really crispy, like pretty smooth and has some really nice shots. Exactly. And I think that's probably the big thing that really does stand out, and a few have mentioned this, but it really is the fact that it is a 2D LEGO movie. Because when you do think about other LEGO property stuff, or LEGO TV shows, or LEGO movies and stuff, they're all computer animated. They all have to be 3D. But this is one of those very rare instances where you do see Legos in 2D, and that's what makes it stand out. That's what makes it unique, and that's what gives it the ability to try out all these anime style shots. So honestly, that does really make it unique and really awesome. And honestly, like, this is probably already, I would like, yeah, without even seeing much episodes, maybe this is a bit too much to say, but yeah, this is probably one of if not the best looking LEGO series so far. All right, I'll go and read one more comment before we're gonna jump onto the next story. Let's see. The animation kind of reminds me of Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but better, and from the look of it, I thought it was animated by DreamWorks Animation in terms of television content, but it's not. I am surprised and fascinated, and it makes me want to see if it comes to North America, since I do love action-packed animated shows. I don't know when it'll come, but I hope I'll see it soon. Oh, absolutely, man. I know how you feel. And so we are now gonna go and cap this all off with the grand finale. And we got one more trailer that we're gonna go and check out. Now, this is not something that is from China or wherever. This is actually gonna be something back in North America. But this is honestly something that, like, with or without watching the show, you know this looks like this is gonna be something that will be absolutely cute. And with that said, let's go ahead and check out the trailer for Cartoon Network's We Bare Bears movie.
Places, everybody, places. Panda, you ready for your close-up?
I guess.
Little bro?
Ice Bear born ready.
It's showtime!
Ow. Huh? I said ow. Finally, a friend my size, but with stripes. Whoa! What if we stick together? Like a family? Yeah, and that would make us brothers. We don't even look alike. That's the best part. These bears should be held accountable. Their hijinks have gone on way too long.
We're tired of your antics.
It's just what we do.
Yeah, it's endearing.
You've got a bear problem, and I'm a problem solver. Agent Trout, Department of National Wildlife Control. The sickest thing these bears do, they stack!
Ice Bear senses impending doom.
That Trout guy wants to throw us in bear jail.
Come out with your paws up.
What now, Grizz?
We can start a new life in Canada. They love bears. Just look at this picture.
Being Ice Bear shouldn't be a crime.
I'm gonna check and see if there's any cool stops coming up.
After those bears.
What did he do?
Hello, officer. We're humans.
Trick I use to tell the difference is noting the lack of fur and cute little ears.
Don't worry, we always figure it out. Together. Bros for life.
These bears are a threat to the natural order.
What the heck is that?
You guys ready to party?
No one's ever asked us to party before.
Animal! Drop the beat.
Ice Bear ready to do or die.
Yeah! That's what I'm talking about. Hit it, brother!
And that was the trailer for We Bare Bears, the movie. And honestly, that's the only comment that I could really make about this, or like, the best way to summarize all this is that it really does look like it's going to be an adorable picture. Now, granted, one criticism that I will give out so far from the looks of things with this We Bare Bears movie is that the plot itself, in terms of the narrative, the writing, it does look like it is going to be a little bit cliched. It's not really that original because the main thing is that it's a big road trip movie that they're pretty much on the run to make sure they don't get caught by by the authorities that really want them out of the picture. And there are some people who did mention this, that the plot itself, it seems very, very similar to the Sonic the Hedgehog movie that we just had a few months ago. Like, you could definitely see the very strong similarities where technically the big agent that wants them out of the picture, like, he could be interpreted as, like, Dr. Robotnik. And then, of course, like, you got you got the brothers that, they're the main characters, so they're the ones that are on the run, that they're going on this big road trip, and of course the road trip element, trying to go far away or trying to reach a far destination, where they started out in they're in San Francisco right now. And actually, that is kind of a major coincidence, is that technically one of the big locations is San Francisco, and here they are in San Francisco. But they're actually going away from San Francisco, and they're going to they want to move to Canada. That's their big mission, is that they want to move to Canada, where it's more socially acceptable to be a bear. And with all these, and of course, like, hijinks ensue, and they meet different people along the way while trying to get away from the bad guys and stuff like that. A lot of it seems unoriginal. Like, the plot itself seems a little bit cliched. But the big thing from all this, the big mission, is not necessarily to write an original story. It really is the execution, to really capture the feel of We Bare Bears, to make a We Bare Bears movie. And so far, a lot of it seems very cute, and a lot of it does seem very true to the original series. Like, one fun thing that I really do like, not just what the series does, but also with what this movie is really showing, is that it really does emphasize the fact that when it comes to these bears, like, we know that like, they just hang around the series. People know exactly who they are. Like, they're pretty much like regular citizens and stuff like that. Everybody knows who these bears are, but the thing is that they're not necessarily average citizens. Like, it's not like suddenly they're in a world where, like, animals and humans are, like, living together and we're all like the same species. We don't acknowledge that we're a different species from one another. No, like, everybody is aware that these are bears. Like, yeah, they live among us. Yeah, they talk, but they're still bears at the end of the day. And that is a major component that actually plays within this story, is the fact that they are bears. Yeah, they're a little reckless when they're all around the city and stuff like that. But it's the factor that they are bears that does play a major role in why they have to go and why they want to get rid of them, why they're kind of, like, tired of their shenanigans and that they don't want to do it anymore. And by the way, I don't know if it's just me, but I noticed, like, on this one shot where when the bears are confronted by a few people, are they ordering? Oh no, they totally are. They're ordering poutine. It's full on poutine. Oh, excuse me. I'm fine, I swear. I'm just wondering, is this a common thing in the show? Do the bears actually order a lot of poutine? Dude, oh my god, I just realized, like, honestly, throughout this whole pandemic, it's only been once that I've ever ate in a restaurant. Or not ate in a restaurant, but I've had restaurant food. Like, oh my god, it's been so long since I've had a freaking poutine. Oh, that's probably one of the first things I'm gonna have when the restaurants are gonna reopen and stuff, is have a nice big poutine. Oh my god. Anyway, sorry, I got sidetracked. I got a little bit distracted. Sorry about that, but going back to this trailer, with We Bare Bears, yeah, it's pretty much noticeable that, like, they are bears, and that is pretty much a problem for those people. Like, that's pretty much something that they're kind of like they're pretty much emphasizing. It's the fact that they are bears and they need to be removed. And you could tell that there are going to be some people out there that will treat them like wild animals, which is why they got to go and leave. But also, like, another cute thing is that they did reveal by the end that there's also going to be this one part where they're going to enter into this area that we're going to meet up with a lot more talking animals. Now, of course, this is nothing new. We know that, like, there are other talking animals that do exist, or, like, actual, like, mythical creatures that come to life. Like, for example, like, one of the characters in We Bare Bears is a big Yeti. Or, not a Yeti, but, like, a Sasquatch. Same thing, really, but that's another subject in particular. But now we are seeing, like, this area where now all the animals are hiding, and, like, they're all they're all coming together, they're all celebrating, but now we see, like, there's this area that's, like, filled with just talking animals, no different than, the bears. So, honestly, it is actually going to be fascinating, and the tone so far, I gotta say, it's great as well. There are a lot of really funny moments in here, especially, but it's mostly, I gotta say, I think, like, the biggest charm for me, it's really just the art style. It's a very cute, simple art style, a little anime inspired, especially, like, let's be honest, like, the inspector here, like, this looks like something that came straight out of an anime, so a lot of it, especially with the people, are very anime inspired, but there is, like, a very simplistic round charm that just makes the bears adorable. Like check it out when they stack. Like, you got Ice Bear in the Ice Bear just chilling in the bottom. You got Panda is just, like, right in the middle, just checking his phone, checking updates on social media, and then of course you got Grizzly right on top, like, ah! Oh my god, it's just so cute. It really is cute, and especially, like, you do get a little bit of an origin part, like the first time that we actually do see the bears reunite together, because it does happen in the show where you do see a lot of flashbacks of when the bears are kids, but now, like, we got the big moment where they actually do meet up for the very first time. So that's going to be very interesting to check out. So overall, I will say that when it comes to this We Bare Bears movie, yeah, we're not going to expect a whole lot from the story. It's not going to be, like, the big standout film of the year. I'm not expecting any, like, kind of, like, critical praise or, like, people freaking out about this as much as, like, the Steven Universe movie. But this looks like, for fans of the show, this is going to be freaking adorable. I think this is going to be something that will be made especially for them. I think it's going to be great. And I do have a feeling, even when watching this, like, this can actually be enjoyed by people who don't actually know the show. Like, this could actually be a standout thing that you don't necessarily have to watch We Bare Bears to understand this movie. At least that's the impression that I'm getting from watching this trailer here. But honestly, it really does look adorable. It has its own charm. It is pretty funny at times, so honestly, it looks like something that could be looked forward to. And if you are excited to go and check out the We Bare Bears movie, then Cartoon Network is actually going to go and actually going to release it digitally in the US and Canada on June 8th, which is going to be available on Apple, Google Play, and on Amazon. Alright, so with all that said, I'd like to go into the chat wall, and now it's time I want to ask you all, what do you all think of the trailer for the We Bare Bears movie? Regardless if you're a fan or not, is it something that you want to check out? Is it something that you're excited for? Are you a little iffy about it? Let me know what you all think now. Okay. Let's see now here. Even though I've never seen an episode of We Bare Bears, that was pretty wholesome. The animation is nice and seems to capture the charm of the show. However, is it just me, or are a lot of animated movies based on cartoons starting off with origin stories nowadays? I mean, we got Scoob, and then we got the SpongeBob spinoff that's basically just their take on Disney Channel's Bunked. I'll likely check this out, but until then, this is not over! Bears! Oh my god. Oh, that would be amazing, actually. Can the We Bare Bears movie, can they have a reference to Country Bears. Can they make a reference to that Christopher Walken moment? Oh my god, that would be amazing. Oh boy. But yeah, you do actually bring up a good point that it seems like now the big thing to do now is to make origin stories, because it's not just We Bare Bears, but also we gotta learn about the origins of Scoob, we gotta learn the origins of SpongeBob, and on top of that, like, speaking of Sonic, we also got the origins of freaking Sonic nowadays. So yeah, that seems to be the big trend with family films, and like, animated films as well. It's just like, we gotta learn the origins of these characters, and we gotta see them as kids. I mean, We Bare Bear does get a pass on that, because that this is what they regularly do in the show, so that's fine for them. But it's kind of a massive coincidence that all these that somehow this is the big trend with animated films, or partly animated films of 2020. We need to have the kid version of like recognizable characters. All right, let's see now. I've never watched the show, but I will say this looks pretty cute, and I can see the similarities to Sonic the Hedgehog movie, and at least it looks better than that other road trip movie, I'm Looking at You, Alvin and the Chipmunks. You know, the funny thing is that I have yet to see Road Chip, and honestly, I think I'll keep it that way. Anyways, mind blown. As a fan of We Bare Bears, I could see myself enjoying this. I could see this being a simple yet charming movie, nothing life-changing, but a nice, cute film. Yeah, exactly. I think, like, that's the general thing that I'm getting out of this. It's nothing big. It's not going to be, like, the next big Cartoon Network thing, but it looks like it's going to be charming, and it's going to be its own thing. Anyways, what other comments would we have to read? The movie's plot may be a bit cliche, but it will probably still work since the show has a lot of charm, and it is actually to handle a lot of modern things better than any other animated shows. Though we still must address the bear's biggest crime: they stack. Yeah, and I gotta say, I just need to comment, like, you know, realizing with how they stack and stuff like that, Ice Bear must be one strong freaking bear. If he has the strength to carry his brothers around, like, while they stack, that, you know, honestly, like, the Ice Bear lifts, man. Ice Bear goes to the gym. Ice Bear freaking lifts, bro. Let's see now. What else do we got? I'm actually optimistic about this. Like, I love to watch that We Bare Bears cartoon, both comedic and action-packed at the same time. It's really fun to watch. For this, however, I'm going to be onto it. It looks funny and quite action-packed as the series. I hope you'll see it too. Alright, that's nice. I'll go and read one more comment for this. This looks fun. It looks like a neat film to possibly end the series. My one request for this movie is to use the song Take Off featuring Geddy Lee. That will properly set the mood when they arrive in Canada. Yeah, I definitely see what you mean there. Alright, so with that said, I think that should conclude this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. What a fun episode that this has been. I know we got a little bit serious at first, but then we pretty much let off some steam and just had some fun at the end. So this was definitely great, and I want to say thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. Let's hope for more fun to happen on the next episode. But until then, thank you all so much for checking this out, and until next time, see you later, dudes!